All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for coming to the video. My name is Chris Baroni. I work with the Lakeland Darrow Country Club and Homeowners Association and want to go over a few things today as kind of a follow-up to, I think my last video was maybe about a week or two ago. So I'll be going over some of the legal stuff that we're going through, financials, and then I'll answer some questions that I received and do my best to do it as swiftly as possible. But the first thing to discuss was some of the legal situation. We have a case in which Attain filed a lawsuit against us because of information that Hal had admitted on the our application. Just to be clear, that was from 2018. I think when we'd just gotten on the board, a couple months after that. We've retained a very highly qualified, high-powered attorney who's agreed to represent us and has represented clients like us, and specifically against insurance companies, for I think 39 years. And his firm does about 80% related to insurance, and I think he probably even does more. So great recommendation, highly recommended by many people, and somebody that is probably as close to the benchmark of where you want to be. So it's an honor to have him represent us, and very thankful. And no, I won't be giving out his name, but you'll be able to find out pretty quickly if you don't already. So the next thing I wanted to discuss on the legal side is actually something that, again, appreciate some of the patience. Some of you, I don't think anybody really knew exactly what was going on in the GPL Rappaport case, but there has been some things that we're moving forward on, and it's pretty big and pretty much along the lines of what I've been saying. So for those of you that want to hear the bad news, you might as well just turn it off now, because you're not going to hear it. So bottom line is, on the case that was first filed against us, the first case, which was Terry Miller, Gary Klezak, and Alan Rappaport. Miller and Rappaport no longer in the association. Klezak is. Klezak has never told anybody that I'm aware of, certainly not publicly, why he took his name off of the case within about, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months, something like that, of when it was first filed. We know why. Let's see if Gary will fess up to it. Likewise, a lot of us, all of us, I think, even, when we looked at the case itself and what they had filed was peculiar, because the lawsuit actually was seeking to go after damages done by Terry Miller when he was on the board. It had nothing to do, some of these, at all with us, which would have been fine and dandy, except that Terry Miller was also the one on the lawsuit. So, I mean, things like not having done a reserve study. I mean, we had been on the board for a couple months, and we had already finished a reserve study, I think, by the time that case filed. So it really was peculiar, because people don't normally expose themselves and then sue themselves and then file lawsuits against themselves. So naturally, those of us who were intellectually curious enough to figure it out, or at least to try to figure it out, was, why did he file it? And then there was Mr. Rappaport, who obviously wasn't happy with what was going on, let everybody know about it, and apparently this kind of made sense, and we were wondering why. But I'm going to get straight to the point. Thought there's something on my hat. It's light. We're certain, about as certain as we need to be in order to proceed with other things regarding this case, which I'm not going to get specific with here, that there's answers to every one of those questions. Why did Gary Klezak take himself off? Well, Gary, since you haven't told anybody, I guess I'll tell them for you. And then hopefully you can rebut this and say I'm wrong, because I think that would be classically funny. Because you never filed the lawsuit and you never signed it, did you? That's usually, well, not say usually, but that's a very strong guess. Almost like I'm hinting to you, right? Next would be Terry Miller. Well, why would Terry Miller so blatantly accuse himself in his own lawsuit of things he didn't do? Well, I guess, strong guess is Terry Miller didn't file that either, did you, Terry? And he leaves, and quickly within a year he's gone. Leo McHale, Mr. Rodeo Realty, Mr. Failed to tell a lot of people about the gate valve problem he knew about. Sorry, sluice gate problem. Just, I think, recently settled his case with a HOA member. So keep that in mind for some of you who bought homes from Leo. Him and Rodeo Realty may owe you some money. I think they paid out a pretty handsome sum to the homeowner. And then that leaves the last person, who would be Alan Rappaport. Well, we're pretty sure he didn't sign it either. And if that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about this. Who is Jonathan Gabriel? Well, some of you may remember him as the guy that maybe tied a few on at the club one night and got a bunch of video. I know some of you did. And that's always been, as he said even that night, that was David Smith's attorney. But he's representing Mr. Rappaport, Klezak, and Miller. Nah, I doubt it. I bet you he was representing Mr. Smith, who filed it for him. And I think we have proof of that now, too. So where that ends up on the GPL case, we'll continue fighting it. I mean, we have to until, the proper authorities and people who find out about this. And obviously I'm not bringing this to your attention now because I didn't know about it for quite some time. But maybe I'm bringing it to you now because it really doesn't matter now. Someone's goose is already getting cooked. And to the extent of which we'll soon find out. But we'll keep moving forward on the GPL case. Obviously, there's ramifications because of that. And they're not the type that they're trying. So, something to think about. Yeah, it's a big deal. But, those of you who've been supporting me, believing in me, and knowing that, what I'm telling you, is as much of the truth as I can give you at the time. I hope you understand what this took to get here. And if it wasn't for the support of Mike Human and Dave DiNapoli and, now Paul Bromley, this would have been very difficult, because I do want to say this, and please don't take it the wrong way. But it's worth mentioning, because I think I would want to know this, and it'd be disingenuous if I didn't told you, is, that work was done pro bono by me. So those of you who may have been wondering what I was doing all the time, and so much of the time, well, it was that. A lot of it was investigating what was going on. And I won't be able to say much more, except, like I said, I've known about this for a long time. And I could prove it. But we needed everything in order to move forward with it. And we have that now. And yeah, I'm happy that I look happy. Maybe a little tired. But I'm happy to bring that to you guys, so that way you know. Again, I'm not saying what the implication is going to be in the GPL case, but I'm saying that if you've got two brains, you're probably going to figure it out. And unless something totally different happens. But it's still a case we've got to move forward on, and we will. But to Gary Solomons and Alana, and to Jonathan Gabriel, since I know your friends here will be sending this to you. I don't know why you did what you did. Alana with the illegal subpoena to Google, to, Gary knowing about this, going into our first mediation with Stephen Levine and Zach Levine and telling us if we agreed to settle with him, you'd make the other case go away. Did I look like that guy? Really? And to Jonathan Gabriel, I mean, both of you guys have been suspended already. I don't know what this is going to equate to, and frankly, it's not my job. But I wonder what it takes to get to that place in life where you would do that. It's just despicable stuff, man. I mean, honestly, despicable. And I'm not surprised. And you guys are way out of your league on this one. But I assume you'll deny it all and find out the hard way. As I've been warning you since day one, even sent you a letter. You even brought it up in court, which I'm allowed to do. Now you're in some way, shape, form kind of getting a YouTube video for you. Shame on you guys. Honestly, it's horrible stuff. So back on to the next thing, which is the financials. I understand that Harriet Cohen, Yvette 2K, Michael Allen, Hal Siegel, Jeff Herring, Andrea Jackson, Mary Wood, and a few others have been out there telling you there's 137,000 deficit, whatever they're trying to say. I'm going to try to narrow this down. One, that's not true at all. Two, your dues aren't going up, which you know. And three, there was no assessment this year. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack that here, hopefully in 5 minutes or less. When we took over officially, which, I guess we'll just say November timeframe, we had to come out with a budget for the next year, like within a month. So the budget that we came out with, the budget that Michael Allen, Mary Wood, and Harriet, and everybody, Hal, they're using now and trying to say, we're 137,000 over budget, as we sit with over 200 into our account, and our reserve account, which we started off with 2,000, and over 60 in the operating. Okay, so in November, we go into this and we've got to come up with all kinds of stuff. Well, GPL wasn't giving us any financial breakdowns. So what we were able to do is kind of what we found from some of the boxes and folders they left behind to some of the things that people had on their email or whatever is, we came up with some numbers, and I'm actually very proud of the numbers that we came up with. And yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is I had the majority of the responsibility to come up with that, and I own it and damn proud of it. So having not known anything about how much our water bill would be, gas bill, or, there were so many unknown variables. I want to just give you a brief sum of a few. And the first one would have been how we would have been able to prepare for some of the legal stuff. Obviously, we wouldn't know what type of avalanche of legal stuff would be coming our way, but we've handled that, and I think we've spent quite a bit of money on the legal stuff, absolutely, which, by the way, has equated to 0 special assessments and no raising of your dues. So after the legal, I mean, we had back taxes, I think, of like, 30,000, I think, something like that. Well, we didn't have that in our budget. We didn't know. And how could we have? I mean, the restaurant wasn't paying their utility bill. There's 10, 20,000, something like that right there. On top of that, I mean, nobody knew that we were going to have to spend, which really should have been closer to $35,000, but we spent around 20 and got long-term for it, terms on it, was the underground piping that would have to be done under Cape Horn going to Lake, to Hole 1. I mean, we literally had to dig 9 feet underground, or I'm going to say 9 feet, it might have been like 6, but anyway, we had to shore it, so to be legal, we had to actually shore the ground so it didn't collapse in on the workers there. And slip line pipe, which, isn't the hardest thing to do, but you'd have to know how to do it. You'd have to know the ODs. Thank God somebody in the piping business, yours truly, along with a contractor who was more than generous with his time and money, was able to help us out. And that was, I think, $20-some thousand. Could never have expected that. Couldn't have expected to drop thousands of dollars on the electrical issues we had with the controllers. Couldn't have expected to have to pay for all of Michael Allen's paperwork and lawsuits and things that he wants to brag about as if he never had access to it. He just blatantly lied to the court and got away with it. And then obviously having to deal with the attorney and the phone calls going back and forth because we represent the HOA. And my capacity being different than that of the board of directors, but being on the legal committee and being a paid employee, obviously we have to do our diligence to represent the HOA and get legal counsel for some of these, frivolous claims that him and Zakari and a few others were making. On top of that, nobody could have had the foresight to know that the very people who were passing out flyers in support of me and David DiNapoli would then be stabbing us in the back at a time when we're as inundated with legal as it is, and quite frankly, that we've gotten this far without, again, not a single special assessment. So what I'm basically getting at, and how would we know how much that golf carts were going to cost, $10,000 a pop, or we could have bought some cheap ones and then replaced them 2 years later, 3 years later, excuse me. How would we have known how soon we could have gotten a new tennis, company and a new pool company, or actually the first pool company? I mean, they're there year round. Get the bar up and running and get the course up and running. We didn't have things that really laid that out there. But here's the beautiful thing, and here's what the GPL supporters and obstructionists are not going to tell you. Not only did they have nothing to do with the budget, and not only since us being on the board, and then obviously me in this position, they have joined forces with the GPL supporters to create another uprising, to funnel money again away from the HOA, to try to accomplish what David Smith can't accomplish, and others for that matter. Not dedicating a single minute of volunteer time to the HOA while spending weeks, if not months worth of hours to the demise of the very board they once supported. And when you ask them why they don't support the 3 directors and myself, what's their answer? What is it? It's garbage. It'll change just by the week, because as soon as they mention it, we come back like I just did and took their $137,000 BS claim and threw it right out the window. We don't have that. I think at most we're at like 70, and who cares? It's not due yet. Why would we pay it right now? I mean, I can't help it that Harriet Cohen claims to be financially literate and filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy just a few years ago. Hal Siegel's got judgments and liens, double-digit liens, bankruptcies, filed for bankruptcy, judgments. It's unbelievable. I mean, I had this stuff sent to me, and I'm reading it like, is this real? Hal's got like 10 liens or something, 12 liens and judgments and for money and been in arrears at the HOA here for like just like $6,000. Struggles to make his payments. I mean, no wonder why David Smith went after him. He was the easiest target. He had the most financial problems. This is the same guy that let $30,000 slip out of Wells Fargo within just a couple months of him being on the board. And I had to go get that back. And then Smith had to write us a check, and his attorney write us a check to get that back for the tax stuff. And then he's the one that says shut down the restaurant and then goes and aligns himself with the restaurant. And then sends attorney-client privileged information to the restaurant that we know is going to make it back to Smith. Then, if that's not bad enough, has to be removed as the treasurer, runs again, somehow it gets back on the board, and instead of having some humility, actually accepts it, does it, gets on the board, and what happens next with Hal? He's joining forces with the GPL people. Duh. Well, no wonder. Because he's been that way the whole time. Hal Siegel was bribed. And he's not telling any of you of that. And now you heard it from me on YouTube. And he failed after numerous times, and Hal, you have the emails, and so do I, of you telling you to let the attorney know. You failed to do so. Well, there's only one reason why. It's not because you're stupid. It's not because you're that lazy. It's because you were bribed. To the extent we'll find out. We will find out. And now he has to be represented by a separate attorney. Tell me again, who thought these three people who claim to be financially literate should be on the board? And then there's Michael Allen, who has, criminal charges or criminal complaints? When you were working for a bank? And then your, sophomoric response to that? I mean, are you kidding me, dude? I mean, really? And you've got other complaints for forgery or something? While you've been working at, I don't know, whatever financial institution, now it's Wells Fargo and Westlake or whatever, and you don't feel like you need to disclose that? I guess you don't need to disclose anything regarding the illegal land deal that was given to you by David Smith and Sandra Gottlieb and Terry Miller. There's a crew of people for you that we can trust. So obviously we could trust Michael Allen, who doesn't have any remembrance or paperwork regarding it. Right. These are your three financially literate people. Maybe illiterate's the word you meant. But I certainly don't need any of you telling me how to run a business and then lying to members of the HOA that somehow we're in all this deep trouble. With all of this said and done, everything I mentioned, all of the variable costs that we could never have ever anticipated happening, I'm damn proud of where we're at today. And the fact that all of these expenses that we could have not ever have known about, didn't cost the HOA one more dime than what it had already been spending. No special assessment and no raising of the dues next year when prices for everything are going up, including insurance. I want you to think about that for a minute. Because those, quote, financially literate people who've been lying to you are disgusting human beings. On their best day, they could never have dreamed that we would have accomplished what we did in the last year. And that's what they hate the most. That's what they're really pissed off about, that it's not them. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you're so unhappy with how great things are going and the fact we went from 2,000 to 200,000. And there's one other funny thing about this I've got to tell you guys. Oh, this is great. So when we first took over, the old board was putting $200 into our reserve account. And that was, got it up to 2,000 or whatever, okay? And one of the first things we did, and albeit symbolic, but we did it because it was symbolic and it kind of meant something. And by the way, this isn't to take away from, this part of it's not going to take away from the entire story. So we took our dues from $200 a month to $400. Pay attention. And we dang near got a standing ovation from all of the, let me tell you who was clapping. Harriet Cohen, Mary Wood, Jan Allen, Tom Allen, Michael Allen, I believe, Every single person who's an obstructionist and a GPL supporter was clapping at that meeting. And I'll never forget because how good it felt, how awesome it felt. Let me tell you the hypocrisy in all of this, so that way you have an idea. They just ran their mouth the other day talking about how we had to slash our funding for our reserve account. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to tell you. They sent out a flyer email saying, oh yeah, we got to cut our reserve account. We had to slash it in half because they don't understand business and they don't understand money. They cheered for going to $200 to $400. And they want you to be really pissed off right now because from $400, we went up to $15,000 a month. Now, somebody out there is going, okay, Chris, you made a mistake. You just misspoke. You just gave a number that's so astronomically higher than what they were doing. Why would they be pissed off? Because that's who they are as people. Disgusting people with just angry minds concoct that. Let me repeat that again. We dang near got a standing ovation from going to $200 a month into our reserves to $400 a month about a year ago. In 12 months, we've put $200,000 into the reserve account. Actually, we put more, and then we took some out for insurance. So, but anyways, we're with $200,000, which puts us up 10,000%. Without a budget that we knew anything about, we just knew we wanted to pay ourselves first, which was the reason for the $30,000. Obviously, we were able to pack some of that away so we could evaluate. It was kind of like the rainy day fund, and guess what? What a great job. Okay. So now what's being said is it's being slashed in half, and we're only putting $15,000 a month away. That's really all I have to say. For those of you who really are seeking the truth, it's not too late. Jan Weber, come on. You got hoodwinked. You're getting hoodwinked. Your neighbor's lying to you. And now she's so invested in the demise that she has the arsonist mentality now. You're better than that, Jan. I know you are. And make sure you tell Bill I said hello. That's a good man right there. And you know it. And I know he's proud. And he should be. You guys were a lot of the reason why I ran when I didn't want to. One other quick thing I'll end this on is those of you who've been attacking the 3 members and directors of the board and myself on the vile website that you've created. Truthfully, I've been there a couple times and wasn't that impressed, except I think the WordPress website is nice. And I think we're going to upgrade our website now. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. Really and truly. You know, the last year when GPL put up their website, the ability to navigate through it really was nice, and we'll get there. But you guys can keep hating all you want, but it's not working. And you'll find that out on Thursday, I'm sure. So that's that. To those of you who care about what's going on, care about the changes that have been made for the better, and understand my plight and that of the 3 directors who have helped guide us here, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. That's a lot that was said today, and there's still more I can't tell you. But for those of you that have believed in me up to this point and believed in, Mike Heumann and Dave DiNapoli and Paul Bromley, I hope you guys are proud, because they've done an awesome job, all the while being attacked by the ingrates, the obstructionists, and the GPL supporters who are so now invested in the failure of this HOA that they'll be willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, including whatever this, recall they think they, are putting together. Be assured that the only way I've been able to move on and to do this is with the support, and I've said this from the beginning, of those of you who cared enough. Well, there's two ways you could have cared enough not to get involved or listen to the BS, or cared enough and volunteered your time, your kind emails, and coming over to my house. It's so appreciated. So I want to make sure you guys know that. I also want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and we'll see this through to the end. And I'll make sure that you're happy and proud when this is all said and done. So thank you.